Day 2 of the new Congress having still no speaker, so we'll be talking about that. Plus, the conversation between AOC and Paul Gosar, who, oh my god, threatened to kill her, and the conversation between AOC and Matt Gaetz comes somewhat to light. Whether or not any of it's true or not, we don't know, but we will go with the thought that it is true and see what it is that the people think of this. In other news, Damar Hamlin is in improving condition as we talk about what's going on with that, and Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp have a major exchange over what happened that day, so we'll talk just a bit about that and what's happening there and what that means. The FDA has done a swing and a miss and is now allowing pharmacies to dispense abortion pills to patients. I actually don't know what the change of this is. I'm looking forward to reading this article because I thought that was who dispensed abortion pills already, but we'll see what's happening with that, what that means, and how much that's going to be a detriment to society. And the government must raise taxes 40% or cut spending 30% to achieve equilibrium. And guess which one of those they are not going to do? It is going to be all this and more. Happy New Year. Welcome back to Speakerless Season. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. We're already starting to get some of those numbers up. Looks like some of you guys are starting to tell some friends about the show, which is awesome. Thanks to everybody who is coming by here to check us out. Welcome to your evening news. This is Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and we have got another pretty packed news day today. Although, after doing some minor repairs around here, I am hoping that we will not have 10 minutes of dead air and dead space because of a broken Ethernet cable. That it was very unfortunate last night, and I mean, it was on a night too where, I mean, I could really go long if I wanted to, but I try not to, especially when other Turns the Pages Productions programs are going on. So I didn't want to go past and go into Porch Boy's time slot, but we got through enough of it to come out today, and we've got some space that we were able to put some of this back on here today, so we've got a lot to go over, including the abortion pills from the FDA. I am very curious to see what's going on with that, and I have not pre-read that article. Some stuff from the WEF. A good news coming out of Louisiana. I guess now you need a government ID to access Pornhub in Louisiana, so I don't know how they're going to enforce that. As being a former user of Pornhub myself, I know that they don't really do any enforcement of that. Oh, are you 18? Okay. Oh, yeah, you totally said you were 18, so our liability is gone, but we'll be talking about that. Damar Hamlin, and the big news of the day, which would have been the big news of the day yesterday, if not for Damar Hamlin. The speakership is gone 2 days now. We are 2 days of a new Congress with no speaker, which means that the new Congress people can't even be seated yet right now. But we're still rid of Adam Kinzinger. I got to have a little bit of fun with that as well, and a little bit of a light up coming from me poking fun at Adam Kinzinger for that too. So yeah, a lot of people are out there and a little bit mad about the fact that I don't just bow down and do whatever the establishment GOP says, but you know what? I've never been a Republican, so there's that aspect too. But we have got all kinds of stuff to talk about over here on Contemporary. Before we get started, make sure you guys go check out great programming, such as the Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, The Porch Boys. Go check out Tweets by Brit, Mr. Behavior, and the No Gimmicks Podcast, and more as we try to build you a coalition of people who will bring you good news and good culture from the common man for the common man. So go check out all that great programming. Let's get into it. Let's get started, and let's see what we've got going on today. Starting with the Dow, as we gather some more people in here. Let's see if we can get 10. We've been averaging 9 to 10 viewers throughout the episode, so thank you guys for that as well. Get some chats up in here too. That'll help get us promoted around, is because the more chats that the algorithms see, the more they promote us out to the front page. So let's get some of that chatter going up here too. Even though I don't address it during the live stream, I will say a special thank you at the end of the week. And also, I do sit down and read everything at the end of the program. So everything you guys chat, I do see. But let's get started on the Dow first. The Dow was at 33,269.77 after a whipsaw day, starting itself up and then dropping almost immediately. It stayed actually up throughout most of the day, and then it lost steam again, with one final Hail Mary coming up at the end. So we'll be talking about that, what the futures say, and where we go with that. Looking in at the Bitcoin, which is at 16,855.50 on the day. That has been a mostly up day, but I mean, it's not moving up or down in very, very big fashions here. We are up right now 186.10, or about 1.12%, which has been one of the biggest gains / losses I've seen in quite a while. Ever since we got to the 16,000 mark, it rarely gets over 1% on one direction or the other. So maybe we'll see some steam building here. I know that there are places out there, because I think some of this is trying to get AstroTurf right now. I know at Woodman's and Quick Trips you can buy Bitcoin in a machine with cash now, which is weird. I don't understand that, but that's what we're seeing on the Bitcoin right now. And on your fuel prices, which, by the way, over here in the La Crosse area, they have jumped to over $3. They resisted, but they jumped up 20 cents today between the time I went to work and the time I left work, which brings us to $3.18 at most stations, looking into the Madison area. From what we saw yesterday, $3.16 on the Isthmus, which wasn't $3.06 yesterday? That's the Quick Trip entering the Isthmus. Bring this out here a little bit so we can see the okay. The Amoco is still at 306, 316 entering the Isthmus. The Quick Trip on the west side is at 320. The Speedway on the west side is at 310. Looking out to the east side, we've got that one holdout on the east side that's still holding at 298. Leaving Madison, going on I-94, the BP leaving Madison on the Beltline is at 307. Coming up on the north side is 320. The BP leaving on the north side is 316, and the Quick Trip leaving out on the interstates is at 320. So a little bit of a mixed bag, but still holding somewhat steady while the rest of Wisconsin catches up. Your area may be different, maybe higher or lower, depending on your gas taxes or your individual situations with fuel. But watching the benchmark, we will continue to see what happens with this and where this goes. All right, let's grab one from Investors Business Daily. Let's see what they have to say. Dow Jones rises despite Microsoft sell-off. Beware buying the blip, from Ed Carson. Dow futures were a little changed after hours, along with the S&P and the NASDAQ futures. Stocks traded up and down on Wednesday amid a Microsoft sell-off, stronger than expected economic data, and a still hawkish Federal Reserve. Clearly worried about a market rally undermining its inflation fight, the major indices ultimately closed modestly higher in a largely inside session. Apple and Tesla bounced, recouping a fraction of Tuesday's fierce losses. China's internet stocks were hot Wednesday, with Alibaba, JD.com, and Pinduoduo surging after solid gains on Tuesday. Hopes for a peaking China COVID wave are helping, with Chinese EV makers and Macau-based casinos also rallying, but a positive regulatory move for Alibaba affiliate Ant Group gave a special boost to e-commerce and internet names, but JD stock and peers may already be extended. Neurocrine Biosciences, General Electric, Super Microcomputer, Rio Tinto, Starbucks, Halozyme Therapeutics, and Dexcom are still holding up relatively well. Neurocrine is on the IBD leaderboard, while Halozyme Therapeutics is on the leaderboard watch list. Super Microcomputer and Pinduoduo are on the IBD 50. Rio Tinto was Wednesday's IBD stock of the day. General Electric and Starbucks are arguably actionable on Wednesday, while Rio Tinto, Neurocrine Biosciences, Halozyme, and Dexcom are trading near key moving averages. Sorry about a little bit of the tripping over the words here, but when they do the interchangeable titles versus symbols, you got to go back and look and see what the symbol means. But some of these names came off early highs, even closing slightly lower. but investors should beware buying the blip when stocks and the broader market show strength intraday or a full session. It's time to be cautious about any new buys, which is exactly what the Federal Reserve wants. Let's finish up with the futures, and I'll explain what that means. On the futures, Dow futures lost 0.1 versus fair value. The S&P and NASDAQ were flat. Amazon will end up cutting more than 17,000 jobs, the Wall Street Journal reported late Wednesday. When the e-commerce and cloud giant announced in November it was starting layoffs, Amazon expected to cut 10,000 positions. Amazon rose nearly 2% in extended trade. And remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate to actual trading in the next regular stock market session. So, that's one of the things that we see going on with this, and I mentioned this at work when I first saw the article, because I was kind of looking around. Between customers, I was looking around and seeing what the markets were doing. It's not like what I used to be able to do at work, where I could just go hunt for news all the time. And, at my old job, I really only had to work 3 hours a day. I had it running so smoothly, I didn't have to do much else off of that. But now I actually have to do my job. But what I was looking at earlier was, and I saw the fact that they're going to keep hiking interest rates, and one of the things that I said was, oh yeah, no, of course, because they need to take $1.7 trillion of your spending power out of the market to make up for the $1.7 trillion of spending power the government just printed off in the new budget coming up for the next year. So, yeah, the more the government spends, the more they're going to try to right up the behind on you. But that's what the Federal Reserve does, to try to keep inflation down, keep you out of the market, while the government spends more and more. That's what we see off of that. I do have one more on finance here, talking from the Blaze, because Roth, which I think is Carol Roth, you should be worried about a personal recession. I should be good right now, but I am an outlier in the situation I'm in. Most people are not in the situation that I'm in right now, where you've lived your life on your wages losing 18% over the past 3 years, and you only getting a 5% raise, and then all of a sudden having your wages come back up to where they were prior to the inflationary gouge. Most people are not going to be in my situation, and also in an industry that really has no chance of losing out and bottoming out. I set myself up well, and I'm very happy about what I did. But I know that a lot of people out there are not going to be in the same position. As 2023 opens, experts aren't particularly optimistic, according to Bloomberg, which is Ron Helton's favorite publication from his favorite politician. Forecasters surveyed by the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia put the probability of a downturn in the next 4 quarters at more than 40%, the highest reading since at least 75 economists polled by Bloomberg. See the chance of a 2023 slump at 65%. Their own Bloomberg economics model puts the recession risk at 100%. However, what is happening with the broader economy versus your personal wealth doesn't tell the full story. Consumers' behavior right now is keeping the economy afloat at their own expense, quite literally. Consumer spending makes up 70% of the economy, so it is an important data point, and consumers continue to spend. During the holiday season, retail spending was up 7.6%. That number is not adjusted for inflation, so consumers were keeping the economy on an inflation-adjusted basis, treading water, but spending more of their hard-earned income to do so. Inflation, the same inflation that we were assured wasn't coming and would be transitory, has eaten substantially into consumer savings. Excess savings, labeled by the Federal Reserve, reached a high at the end of the third quarter 2021 of about $2.3 trillion. By the end of September 2022, excess savings had shrunk to around $1.5 trillion, and various banks and economists are projecting all of that to be depleted by around mid-year of 2023. And I'm telling you right now, a lot of it's already depleted. A lot of people right now are with nothing on savings. And the only reason that I am right now, and by the way, again, I actually probably would have been riding somewhat well, except for because my savings account had a goal at the time, and I've not been able to go back and reseed it at this point, but my savings account had a goal of completely eliminating the $1,800 that was hanging over my head from an identity theft. And I put $1,800 into the savings account, and I turned around and used that to get rid of it. So that's the only reason my savings are depleted. Otherwise, yes, I would probably be sitting in a fairly comfortable situation myself. People are not only eating into their existing savings, but they're saving less of what they make. The personal savings rate, which measures savings of disposable income, is back hovering around a Great Recession financial crisis levels. On top of that, credit card debt levels are approaching the $1 trillion mark. After moving across the state, I do have to admit that I'm a little bit, especially getting through everything, a little bit more dependent on the credit card than I wanted to be at this point. Because the market is still undersupplied by workers, jobs have remained largely intact, and those enduring job losses in sectors like tech have rapidly found new work. When people are working, they feel like they can spend even when their wages aren't keeping up with inflation. The fact that home values remain generally elevated creates a wealth effect perception in which people may feel they have extra money in their house and may draw down on that wealth via home equity lines of credit or open new credit lines. This is not official financial advice, but right now I would not take a loan out against your house. Not at 7.5% interest. Jeez, are you insane? The only situation where you should buy a house is if you are a first-time home buyer at this point. And you can get something right at the dip of the housing price bubble. When it pops and it hits the bottom. If you can get something like that, even at 7.5% interest, you can refinance and probably have some equity in your home to refinance against by the time you get yourself back up and the interest rates come back down. But I'm telling you, if you feel the need to move or upgrade, or unless you really need to downgrade, that's the only other thing, I would just stay put and not take anything out against your house unless you are starving to death or your kids are. That should be at 7% your last resort, which, by the way, again, is what the Federal Reserve is pushing for you to stop saving, to be starving, and not take anything out against your house. That is bad trade for consumers who give up long-term wealth for short-term spending. The economy remains more stable, but personally, with less savings, less in equity and investments, and more in debt, you, as an individual, can endure a personal recession. That's my biggest concern right now. The economy's outcome will be largely a function of whether or not the labor market starts to really crack from federal policy and overall sentiment. But even if the economy only suffers mildly, the consumer, aka the individual American, is the one poised to lose long-term wealth. To combat that, you must not take on any new debts and must work to pay down your current debts, especially with those floating high interest rates. Forego new spending and figure out where you can cut back. Absolutely do not take out new credit cards, do not dip into your home equity, and do not liquidate other investments to support current spending. You're killing your long-term wealth for short-term expenses. And I mostly agree with what Carol Roth has to say about this, with the exception of, a lot of the people who are going to do these things are not going to do so they can go buy the new car, not at the interest rates that they're at. Not to go back out and, do a home improvement project or anything like that. The people who are going to be doing the things that Carol Roth talked about are the people who are in dire straits, who have nowhere else to turn. And that's the reality of what the Federal Reserve is doing and what the Biden economy is doing to people right now. It is to the point where, yes, there are people who aren't going to have a choice. It's either lose everything, foreclose on the house, or get a credit card, another line of credit, or something else to buy the groceries to make sure that they're still afloat. So, I appreciate the sentiment, Carol Roth, but anybody who's doing it right now is not doing it because they want to keep up with the Joneses. Right now it is just making sure the food stays on the table. And with that, we move out of finance and we go talk about Mr. Kevin McCarthy. Starting today with CNBC, the latest updates. U.S. House adjourns until 8 p.m. Eastern Time, by the way. Without a speaker after GOP leader McCarthy loses sixth vote. Where's the Nelson meme? This is from Christina Wilkie and Chelsea Cox. And this was, by the way, 11:25 a.m. Eastern Time. But updated at the time of doing this, probably about a half an hour ago. It was 6 minutes ago when I added it to the stack, which was, actually, we're probably closing in an hour at this point. From Washington, the U.S. House of Representatives adjourned for a second time in 2 days Wednesday without electing a speaker, after GOP leader Kevin McCarthy of California failed in 6 consecutive votes to secure enough support to be elected to the post. The adjournment until 8 p.m. Eastern Time Wednesday gave Republicans precious time to chart a path forward, whether that be through negotiations with the core 20 holdouts, which, by the way, we're up one now because it was 19 yesterday, or by coalescing around a new candidate for Speaker. Still, the lack of a Speaker left the House in disarray, largely due to the fact that no rank-and-file members can be sworn in to office until a Speaker is elected. This left all 434 members of the House technically still members-elect, not official voting representatives. The ripple effect of this historic procedural limbo were felt across Capitol Hill on Wednesday. What's the problem? I don't understand what the problem is. Oh, we can't make more laws that bend the American people over and give it to them right up the behind? I know I've used that twice, and I do try to say that I've got kids watching every once in a while, but we don't get to do that to our people? Oh, what a shame. What a crime that we don't get to do that to the people that we pretend to represent. Outgoing Rep. Billy Long pointed out that a host of constituent services were essentially frozen until a new Congress is sworn in. Do it locally. This, by the way, this and government shutdowns should be your number one reason as to why we advocate for smaller, more local governments, like a Federalist would say. To hell with these morons on Capitol Hill, whose only real job should be having an argument or being the arbiter in an argument between two states. If something happens across state lines, they have no business dealing with anything else in the world, and they know it. Who can legally help any and all of our citizens with issues we normally handle every day? Long tweeted. Passports, IRS, well, disband one of those things and you'll be doing well. Veterans issues, which you fail at daily anyway. SBA, post office, which also fails. Immigration issues, corps of engineers, etc. He also questioned how congressional salaries would be allocated. Who's getting paid, outgoing or incoming? Nobody! And that's the magic. Staffers to some newly elected members also told Politico that they were unable to access their official email accounts because the bosses had not been sworn in yet. The core group of 20 GOP holdouts voted for Florida Rep. Byron Donalds in several rounds of votes on Wednesday, each time denying McCarthy the 218 votes he needed to take the gavel. So they moved off of Jim Jordan, which is good. All 212 Democrats voted for the party's incoming minority leader, Rep. Hakeem Jeffries of New York. The mood on the House grew more contentious throughout the day as Republicans loyal to McCarthy grew increasingly frustrated and Democrats grew impatient over 5 hours of voting. Lauren Boebert of Colorado renominated Donalds in the 5th round of voting before asking McCarthy to withdraw his name, which would probably be about the best thing to happen for this country. You've been having my favorite president call us and tell us we need to knock this off, Boebert said on the House floor, referring to former President Trump. I think it actually needs to be reversed. The president needs to tell McCarthy that, sir, you don't have the votes and it's time to withdraw. Together, Donalds and Jeffries marked the first time that 2 black Americans have ever been nominated for House Speaker. Donalds, who was nominated by Texas Republican Chip Roy, told reporters outside the chamber that he would reinstate a House rule to vacate the chair if he were elected. That would make it easier to replace the future House Speaker. Based. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi made it more difficult to change leadership by requiring a party leader or a majority vote by one party to force the vote. Donalds said that any member of the chamber should be allowed to call for a vote on the House leader. This was a mainstay rule in our chamber that empowered all members of Congress, said Donalds, who on Tuesday had publicly shifted his support away from McCarthy. And Pelosi is the one who stripped it, and so we think it's important for our institution to function correctly on behalf of the American people to put it back in place. When asked about a national security concerns with the Congress in limbo, Donald said a hypothetical threat shouldn't affect the voting process. Based. But that's the kind of thing that they're going to do. And, I mean, they're going to do all kinds of crap with this. And even, like, back when we had when the squad was holding out against Pelosi, even though they had a bigger margin, they had more votes to lose. When the squad was holding out against Pelosi, the thought was, and the rhetoric was going out and screaming, oh, well, you better go vote for Pelosi. Don't vote for anybody but Pelosi, otherwise, you might get McCarthy as the speaker. Oh my God, no, that would be the end of the world. And they're doing the same kind of, you know what, I'm not going to mince words around it. If you got kids, earmuffs right now. They're doing the same kind of neocon, uniparty bullshit that they've been doing since Nixon. Oh, well, you better vote for the person that we put forward, otherwise the other party wins. And it's an adamant bullshit lie. It really is. As much as they try to cram it down your throat, the rules are in place that the leading party is the one that makes the choosing as long as they can get the votes forward. Now, is there a possibility, statistically, for Hakeem Jeffries to get an extra 6 votes to go back and take the speakership? Yes, it is. But there are a lot of people there who would cross the aisle, who would not go home. Well, let me just rephrase that. They would not be going home. Their names would be mud. They might actually get recalled if they cross the aisle right now. Which is, by the way, the same thing going on the other side. Now, Democrats actually might be a little bit more apt because a lot of their constituents, and it's the same on the right side too, but a lot more of the Democrat constituents depend on the government and the government functioning because they are so addicted to the system, so inured, so dependent on it that they can't function without the government going. Their religion is tied up into the government at this point. So there is more of a chance that McCarthy gets saved by a bunch of people jumping across the aisle and going and voting for McCarthy from the Democrat side. Let's see, what else do we have here? I would anticipate President Biden would act to secure the homeland, to take care of the American people, he said. When it comes to leveraging money to be spent in response, that's something the members would have to put up into their calculus as well. But that doesn't mean that we should speed up our business here for some hypothetical that may exist at some point. What do you want to bet that if this goes for more than a week that some mysterious terrorist attack happens? And like I said yesterday, this has just as easy of a chance of going for another 4 months, or this could be solved tomorrow. Holy shit, we have 21 people watching. Huzzah! I don't know where we got 21 people watching, but we got 21 people watching. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Let's see. Democrats could help McCarthy by withholding their votes, which could reduce the number of votes he needed to win the House Speaker, according to The Intercept. But Pelosi and others have reportedly dismissed that out of hand. Pelosi told reporters outside the House floor earlier Wednesday that the Republican chaos revealed a lack of respect on the sworn duty, and we all have to defend the Constitution to get the job done for the American people. Little appeared to have changed, publicly or privately, between Tuesday and Wednesday. Both McCarthy's allies and his opponents delivered effectively the same message in interviews Wednesday night that they have been for weeks. We're not going to budge. One exception to the stalemate was a fresh endorsement for McCarthy from Trump, who on Tuesday afternoon had initially sounded an uncertain note about the political future of one of his most loyal allies in Congress. No, he is not an ally. He is a turncoat. That's part of the reason that I stand so hard against McCarthy is the fact that he's like Senator Johnson, my senator, who I have railed against incessantly from the moment that he went over the MAGA side. And Jim Jordan, another person I've criticized by this, and yes, even McCarthy himself. They're all three the same. They join on to whatever coalition is going to get them the most power. If it's Jesus, let's make Jesus the vice president. If it's that coalition of the Republican Party, that's what McCarthy's in. If it's let's go bomb the brown kids, if that's the coalition of the Republican Party that's in power, that's the side he goes on. If it's, I don't know, if it's business leaders have to run the government and oh my God, look at us. Look at what the business leaders are doing. That's the side McCarthy's on. And if it's MAGA, that's the side McCarthy's on. He goes where the power is. We don't know what he actually stands for. He just goes by whatever's the most popular at the time. So no, McCarthy is not one of Trump's most loyal allies. McCarthy has stabbed Trump in the back numerous times. Republicans do not turn a great triumph into a giant and embarrassing defeat. Trump posted on his Truth Social website Wednesday morning. It's time to celebrate. You deserve it. Kevin McCarthy will do a great job. Maybe in a great job, just you watch, okay? Despite Trump's broad support among conservative Republican voters, it was not clear his new endorsement would move the needle for any of the holdouts in Congress. While the group of 20 far-right Republicans are all close Trump allies, the former president's name and his America First message have been notably absent from intra-party GOP debate raging behind closed doors. McCarthy himself was tight-lipped Tuesday and into Wednesday, and he declined to give interviews or take his message to the airwaves or social media. When asked Wednesday morning what his plan would be, NBC News reported that McCarthy told reporters at the Capitol, "Same game plan as yesterday." When a journalist asked how he would get more votes, McCarthy replied, "We're sitting, we're talking. I think we can get an agreement." Yeah, Ron, you're absolutely right on that. Trump would be better off just to shut the hell up. Instead, he authorized a handful of allies to negotiate with holdouts, many of whom identify with the Freedom Caucus, a loosely organized 40-plus member caucus led by Pennsylvania Republican Rep. Scott Perry, who is among the most outspoken opponents of McCarthy's speaker bid. So I didn't intend to read this entire CNBC article front to back. I thought I was going to stop about halfway through, but there's just so much good information about what's going on here. And a lot of this is what needs to happen in both parties too, by the way. The progressives, if you progressives, and I don't typically give progressives advice because I think that what they're going to do is going to take our country off a cliff. But if you want to gain power in Washington, this is the way to do it. Don't let the corporatist neoliberal shill, or the person who was handpicked by the corporatist neoliberal shill, and of course I'm referring to Pelosi and then her hand-picked guard dog, Jeffries. Don't let them be the ones up there just because the uniparty says yes. It's the same thing with Biden. Hold these people accountable if they're not doing what you want, which again, I'm somewhat glad they're not doing what you want, but I don't vote in your caucus. So if you want something different out of your party, hold their feet to the fire and say, no, you will not get my vote unless you come back and do what I say. Or in McCarthy's case, I don't think 15 of these people in the Freedom Caucus are going to change their minds. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene has at this point, but that's a different story entirely. Let's grab one from the Hill. House Speaker election coverage, signs of progress in GOP talks as McCarthy loses 6th vote. From the Hill staff. Kevin McCarthy on Wednesday failed to secure the speakership on the House 6th vote and 3rd of the day, but signs began emerging of progress in GOP talks. Chip Roy said ongoing conversations regarding the speaker's race have been more productive in the last 2 hours than they have been in a while, that progress has been made. We're having ongoing conversations. They've actually been more productive in the last 2 hours than they've been in a long time, Roy told reporters on the steps of the Capitol, though he said McCarthy still lacks the required votes. McCarthy again fell short of the 218 votes required to secure the gavel. The results of the 6th vote were identical to the 4th and the 5th. The 20 GOP McCarthy opponents, all of whom voted for Jim Jordan on Tuesday, switched their votes to Byron Donalds on Wednesday. Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries once again got all 212 Democratic votes. In a change from Tuesday, Rep. Victoria Spartz voted present. It's been a century since the House required more than one vote to select a speaker. Good. Absolutely good. If you don't like what you're seeing, change it. End of story. Change it. Let's grab one. Well, we got a tweet here from Eric Swalwell. R.I.P. Freedom Caucus? Hearing the Freedom Caucus may fold and vote McCarthy. Hallelujah! This will finally be the death of the most destructive caucus Congress has ever seen. You know, next to the House Progressive Caucus, of course. Please tell me how any of these members stay in Congress if you go 6 rounds and then fold. Well, I think a lot of them do want to get paid, but I think a lot of them aren't going to stand their ground. I think this is going to, again, like I said yesterday, this could go 2 different ways. And I think there's about a 50-50 on either one. This could either all be solved tomorrow, or we could go clear up into April without a speaker, which I think would be hilarious. But of course, Rep. Swalwell finished off what he had to say with and then blamed it on the mug being drug across the desk. Let's grab one from Politico. Trump endorses McCarthy after 3 failed speaker votes. So a little bit more in depth on the Trump angle of things from Kelly Hooper. Former President Trump on Wednesday pushed Republicans to vote for Kevin McCarthy to become House Speaker a day after the GOP leader struck out in 3 straight votes for the gavel. Some really good conversations took place last night. It's now time to call for all of our great Republican House members to vote for Kevin. Close the deal, take the victory, Trump said on a post on Truth Social, the social media platform he helped to found. Trump's endorsement came at a critical moment for McCarthy as a handful of Republicans stand in the way of his road to the Speaker's gavel. The House adjourned without a Speaker for the first time in a century on Tuesday night as McCarthy failed in 3 consecutive votes to secure the position, facing opposition from the far right wing of the party, which are pushing for Jim Jordan to take the gavel. Republicans are now expected to resolve the leadership dispute behind closed doors, with McCarthy and his allies already in talks with 20 dissenters before the House resumes at noon on Wednesday, which is long ago at this point. It was unclear whether Trump, who had initially endorsed McCarthy's bid for Speaker, would continue to support his longtime ally. They're not allies after 3 failed votes, telling NBC on Tuesday that, "We'll see what happens." But even with Trump's reaffirmed support, the sway that he could have is yet to be seen, as the former president's own position in the GOP has weakened following a disappointing performance in the midterms among candidates he endorsed. Well, we'll watch and see. I want to get some popcorn and see what happens with this. From Insider, talking a little bit more about the conversations that happened on the House floor between seeming enemies who really talk a bunch of trash about each other on social media and then go to the same bars and drink together. From Insider, AOC Biscuit says that she was telling Matt Gaetz and the Democrat Party would absolutely not rescue Kevin McCarthy's speakership bid when they were spotted chatting on the House floor. From Cheryl Tett and Azmi Haroon. In a rare display on Tuesday, New York Rep. Alexandra Ocasio-Chavez was spotted speaking with the unlikeliest of her congressional colleagues, Florida Rep. Matt Gaetz and Arizona Rep. Paul Gosar. Ocasio-Chavez was seen on Tuesday speaking to Gaetz briefly on the floor of Congress. The conversation between the two came as a surprise, considering how they've clashed and how ideologically different they are from the progressive Congresswoman and the House Freedom Caucus congressmen are.
This is a Game Chops jam.
Speaking to The Intercept, Ocasio-Chavez said that Gaetz told her House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy, who is currently vying for the role as House Speaker, is trying to convince the GOP he can cut a deal with the Democratic Party to get the job. Oh, so it's blackmail. Then they really should just not vote for him, and he should withdraw himself. In response, Ocasio-Chavez said that she told Gaetz that the Democrats will not help McCarthy, okay, puppy? McCarthy failed to get the votes he needed to secure the speakership on 3 separate ballots on Tuesday, and by the 3rd vote, the number of people voting against him had gone up. McCarthy was suggesting that he could get Dems to walk away to lower his threshold, Chavez told The Intercept. And that fact-checked that and said, absolutely not okay, puppy. In another strange turn of events, Ocasio-Chavez was also seen sitting next to Paul Gosar and talking to him, nodding and smiling, which I think that they were actually planning on going and watching Attack on Titan together. Ocasio-Chavez told Semaphore on Tuesday that Gosar, too, had approached her to ask if the Democrats were willing to help McCarthy secure the speakership by exiting the chamber and lowering the vote threshold. Ocasio-Chavez added to Semaphore that she told Gosar the same thing she told Gates, that her party would not be helping McCarthy out. Oh, my 92 people over on Twitch left. Oh well. Thanks for playing. ABC reporter Gabe Ferris also spoke to Ocasio-Chavez about the conversation between her and Gosar. The New York Congresswoman told Ferris that she would never walk away to clear the path for McCarthy, and that she would back Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries. Okay, puppy! The Congresswoman had a storied history with Gosar in November 2021. He posted... No, I can't read this out loud because it's false. Every word of it is false. He posted a boomer-edited video clip of the theme of Attack on Titan. The video prompted Ocasio-Chavez to call Gosar a creepy member who I work with who fundraises for neo-Nazi groups, okay, puppy? Who shared a fantasy video of himself killing me, okay, puppy? That month, Gosar was stripped of his committee positions by Democrat-led Congress because, of course, they can make the decisions. Whoever winds up being the speaker, by the way, is going to have fun with this. He then refused to apologize for posting the video, comparing his censure to Alexander Hamilton's. Which, again, is a big part of the reason why it was so unlikely that the two of them were talking together. Let's grab one from The Blaze, talking a little bit more about this. And then we've got a video from CNN as well. So, two Republicans huddled with Ocasio-Chavez and revealed what McCarthy boasted behind closed doors. We would never do that, okay, puppy? So we know what happened with that. Let's look at some of this here. Gabe Ferris tweets out, on her floor convo with Rep. Gosar earlier, AOC Biscuit tells me that McCarthy made claims within the GOP conference that some Democrats would walk away to lower the threshold. Gosar was asking Chavez for clarification. Would she walk away? We would never do that. Chavez told me Jeffries out the way, okay, puppy? Chavez later revealed that Gates had relayed the same message, that McCarthy said Democrats would walk away from the vote to lower the number of votes he needs to become the speaker, and she similarly denied it. Well, see, a part of the thing with that, too, especially with being Chavez, is that she's not going to be the one that gets invited to these conversations. They're not going to go and talk to the House Progressive Caucus. They're going to go and talk to the neoliberal folks, the unipartyists, the people who got behind Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger in the end because they said mean things about the Orange Man. That's who they're going to go with. Got a tweet here from Midas Touch with some video. Let's have a look at that. I don't know if there's going to be audio with this, but we'll shut the music down temporarily and have a listen. No audio. We can hear the crowd in the back. So that's what they have there. And one from CNN talking just a bit more about this. Let's listen to what they had to say.
There was another curious moment yesterday, though, as cameras in the chamber were trained on members as they were going back and forth while this voting was happening. Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was spotted chatting with the Republican Paul Gosar, the lawmaker who has ties to white nationalists and, remember, was censured after he posted that altered anime video depicting him killing AOC and President Biden.
Does anyone in this chamber find this behavior acceptable? Would you allow depictions of violence against women, against colleagues? Would you allow that in your home? Do you think this should happen on a school board? In a city council? In a church? And if it's not acceptable there, why should it be accepted here?
A spokesman for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez told CNN that Gosar was asking her if any Democrats were planning to vote present. That's a tactic that's been discussed so Marthy could have a lower threshold that he needed to overcome.
The House held its vote today to
No sound, boomer moment once again. So yeah, I mean, and again, it's all strategy. It's all, again, the big thing is these people do all work together. They don't hate each other as much as they say that they do. They can make all the big videos that they want and the big stink that they want, but again, they all go out to the same bar and drink together and laugh about how much they have more than you. And they always will. All right, so that's our speakership bid. We'll see if this gets resolved tomorrow or if we go yet another 6 months. Let's grab one from ESPN. Let's talk about Damar Hamlin. Damar Hamlin showing signs of improvement, Buffalo Bills say, which is good. I'm saying a prayer for Damar Hamlin. I do think that there may be some certain things that we can't talk about on YouTube going on with that, but I'm still saying a prayer for him. I want to see this guy pull through. I really do. No author given. Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin remains hospitalized in critical condition but showed signs of improvement that were observed Tuesday and overnight into Wednesday, according to the team. The Bills said Wednesday in a statement that Hamlin is expected to remain under intensive care as his healthcare team continues to monitor and treat him. Jordan Rooney, a friend and business partner of Hamlin, told ESPN's Coley Harvey earlier Wednesday that Hamlin was still sedated at the time, less than 2 days after he went into cardiac arrest on the field during the Bills game against the Bengals. Rooney told Harvey that doctors saw promising readings overnight from Hamlin that they had hoped to see Wednesday morning. Hamlin's agent, Ron Butler, told ESPN's Jeremy Fowler on Tuesday that Hamlin's oxygen levels had improved. Yeah, it's about 10 minutes because they had only adjourned until 8 p.m. Eastern. So, yep, they'll be coming. Rooney told Harvey, and by the way, if anybody sees anything off to the side about the fact that they had come up with the speakership, I will be your chat's over here on me, so I'll be watching out of the corner of my eye, and if I see something like that, we will break into that live. Hamlin's agent, Ron Butler, told ESPN's Jeremy Fowler on Tuesday night that Hamlin's oxygen levels had improved. Rooney's updates came after Hamlin's uncle, Dorian Glenn, told numerous media outlets Tuesday that there were some encouraging signs in his nephew's progress, such as doctors lowering the level of oxygen Hamlin needs from 100% to 50%. So, he's doing better. He's still not awake yet, as of last night. No word on if anything's changed off of that, but I do hope that he gets better. Let's grab one from CBS Sports. Damar Hamlin's family frustrated by criticisms of Bengals T. Higgins. From Stephen Toronto. The family of Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin is frustrated and mad at accusatory social media comments levied toward Cincinnati wide receiver T. Higgins from certain users following their son's medical emergency Monday at Paycor Stadium. The sentiments of the family were shared by Jordan Rooney, Hamlin's marketing representative and personal friend, in comments to Spectrum News 1 Buffalo. Higgins was involved in the play that cut Monday night's game between the Bills and Bengals short as he collided with Hamlin while fighting for extra yards after making a catch that went for 13 yards. Hamlin went into cardiac arrest and collapsed immediately after the play, and the game was not resumed after on-site medical staff worked to restore Hamlin's heartbeat before transporting him to the nearby University of Cincinnati Medical Center. Higgins, who was seen visibly distraught in the aftermath of Monday night's events, was unfortunately not spared from criticism for his role in the play, which I don't believe that he had, which ranged from hateful online comments to being blamed for the situation outright by former NFL linebacker Bart Scott. Rachel Holtmeyer says, if you think you're supporting Damar by bashing Higgins, you're not supporting Damar. Let's listen.
There's been a lot of hate directed about the situation towards T. Higgins, but you're saying that he's made contact involved in this situation. How has that relationship been with the family since this has all gone down?
Yeah, I mean, when I talked to the parents this morning and kind of told them what's been going on, they're mad. Mm-hmm. They're frustrated. Like, this isn't supporting Damar. Like, if you think you're supporting Damar by bashing T, you're not supporting Damar, because they don't agree with anything that's being said. It was a freak football accident that could have happened with anyone at any time. T has reached out. He's went above and beyond. All signs point to him being a great human being who genuinely cares and feels bad. And the family feels bad that T would have any guilt towards this situation.
Absolutely. In terms of people that may be at home in Buffalo or just not in Cincinnati, and as someone who's been here and is, of all of us, the closest to the situation, what can you tell them about everyone's current state of being that's closest to Damar?
It hasn't changed. From the beginning, everyone's been nervous and worried. I think there's still that feeling, but everyone knows Damar. Everyone knows what he's capable of. So certainly there's things outside of our control, but we know Damar will do anything in his control to make sure he comes out on top of this.
Mm-hmm. And we that cover the Bills know Damar's heart, hustle, character, but ultimately when he does pull through from this, what do you think his reaction is going to be to this level of support, to the fact that the GoFundMe has absolutely blown up, and the fact that he's not a guy that's out there to get the name recognition, but his name is a household name right now?
Yeah, and that's, to be honest, that's why I'm doing these interviews, is because Damar would want me to tell his story. That's why we didn't take the traditional approach of just putting out PR statements. Damar is very much a personable person that wants to be transparent, and that's why I'm doing these interviews, because Damar would want exactly that, and that extends to when he finds out about the GoFundMe, when he hears about all of the support he's gotten. He's going to look at a situation like that and think, okay, what good can I do with this? That's just who he is.
But with that, again, the big thing with is I don't think that Higgins is really responsible for this. I have my theories about this. A lot of them we can't say on YouTube because there are certain medical decisions you cannot question, no matter what kind of rhetoric has come out of there. And I do think that one of those is responsible for what happened. But I don't think it was T. Higgins. That was a textbook hit. That would have made a defensive coordinator proud if it wasn't for the fact that Damar Hamlin had fallen over afterwards. And with that, some more video coming to us from CNN, because Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharpe got into it as well on air over controversial Damar Hamlin tweet. So let's listen.
Do you think it's too dangerous? Because
No, that's a completely separate video. All right, let's go in and read the article then. I thought that was going to be a video of the two of them going at it, but I guess not. Skip Bayless spent a third straight day defending his controversial tweet about Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin, this time during a tense exchange Wednesday with Fox Sports talk show host Shannon Sharpe. Where did Shannon play for? I know his brother Sterling played for the Packers. I don't remember where Shannon played for. I think he was a Cowboy, wasn't he? Sharpe, a former NFL player and member of the NFL Hall of Fame, returned to the duo's talk show undefeated Wednesday after missing Tuesday's show. His absence followed co-host Bayless's widely criticized tweet questioning whether the NFL should have ended the Bills game Monday against the Cincinnati Bengals after Hamlin collapsed on the field. Hamlin went into cardiac arrest after a hit to his chest area. During the incident, Bayless tweeted, "No doubt the NFL is considering postponing the rest of the game, but how? This late in the season, a game of this magnitude is crucial to the regular season outcome, which suddenly seems irrelevant." Oh, it was Denver. Bayless later followed up with a tweet saying that the controversy surrounding the tweet was a misunderstanding of his intention. On Wednesday, the host of Undisputed immediately got into an argument at the beginning of the show. "I've never seen anyone have to be revived and fight for their life on the field," Sharp said during his opening monologue. Skip tweeted something, and although I disagreed with the tweet and hopefully Skip would take it down, but I wanted. Bayless immediately interrupted, saying, "I'm not going to take it down because I stand by what I tweeted." Sharp then decided not to continue his monologue. Visibly upset at Bayless, he said, "I cannot even get through the monologue without you interrupting me." Sharp tried to bring the conversation back to Hamlin rather than about Bayless, and Bayless said he didn't expect Sharp to address this tweet on air. The tense conversation lasted for about a minute. Look, Shannon Sharp is right off this one. This is almost completely uncharted territory. We haven't seen something happen like this since 1971, a half a century ago, when a person that actually did have a previously diagnosed heart condition got hit and died on the field of a massive heart attack. Most of us don't remember that. Most of us are not old enough to remember that. I think Ron Helton is the only one among us who is probably old enough to both be present and watching for that and remember it. But he calls the rest of us young pups because, well, most of us were born in the 80s. Some of us in the late 70s. So yes, if they need to go back and stop the game and regroup because a person all but died on the field, then yeah, I think that's a good thing. There is no statistic out there that is worth the emotional trauma of trying to put people back out onto a field where a person almost died. So, was it 79? I thought it was 71. I get things wrong every once in a while. Let's talk about Sam Bankman-Fried. Insider paper tweeting out, "Watch meetings with Sam Bankman-Fried were focused on pandemic prevention," the White House spokesperson says. The White House spokesperson claims. You mean? Let's listen.
Last week's visitor log release showed a most recent meeting between Sam Bankman-Fried and a White House official, Steve Ricchetti. In this case, this was his fourth meeting of the year. I'm wondering, given this first briefing since then, if you can give us any sort of summary of what has been discussed in Mr. Bankman-Fried's meetings with the White House over the course of the year.
Yeah. So let me give you a few rundowns here. As we've previously confirmed, as you know, I know you're following this very closely, these meetings included Steve Ricchetti and Bruce Reed. The meetings focused on pandemic prevention related to Sam Bankman-Fried's foundation and general information on the cryptocurrency industry and crypto exchanges. Look, the administration has been clear about the need for Congress to take action when we talk about addressing cryptocurrency. The president, as you know, released an executive order on this topic just last March, and the president released a framework for protecting consumers last fall, and last November, Secretary Yellen renewed this administration's call for Congress to take action. So, as you know, the White House regularly engages with officials from a range of industries and sectors, including leaders in business and labor and nonprofits. Again, this meeting with Sam Bankman-Fried was focused on pandemic prevention related matters and cryptocurrency and crypto exchanges.
Yeah, that's, I'm sure, what they were discussing. I'm sure it has nothing to do with funding or the fact that so many of these people got so much money. And Open Secrets was able to confirm that. Uh-oh. We might lose our fanning. From the Daily Wire, Token Diversity hire pressed on why Sam Bankman-Fried visited the White House 4 times. So we've got the one video. Let's see if there's more from Ben Ziesloft. Reporters asked White House Press Secretary Token Diversity hire on Tuesday about the several meetings top Biden admin officials held with former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried, who faces several fraud and money laundering charges. Bankman-Fried garnered controversy after users learned that the commingled funds between crypto exchange platform FTX and sister trading firm Alameda Research, losing untold billions worth of assets as customers rushed to withdraw their balances. The disgraced entrepreneur's extensive political connections came into light the weeks after his company's bankruptcy, including the $39 million he donated to Democrats ahead of the midterms and 4 meetings he was granted at the White House with top officials Steve Ricchetti and Bruce Reed. Diversity hire was questioned by a reporter about the meetings and asked to provide any sort of summary of what's been discussed during a Tuesday press briefing. She responded that officials discussed pandemic prevention and general information on the cryptocurrency industry, with the former executive adding that the admin has supported new regulations on digital assets. The White House regularly engages with officials from a range of industries and sectors, including leaders in business and labor and nonprofits, Diversity hire remarked. Beyond emerging as one of the top overall political contributors during the midterm elections, Bankman-Fried was the second largest donor to the campaign, which successfully placed President Biden in the White House. Reporters questioned Diversity hire last month over whether the admin believes Democratic organizations should return the funds donated by Bankman-Fried, except for the fact that they don't have them anymore. Yeah, I've been kind of watching. I've got CNN's ticker up here. I've been watching. They've reconvened for another vote. The 7th vote is happening. McCarthy doesn't want to vote tonight, but the 7th vote is currently happening. She declined to answer the question by invoking the Hatch Act, which limits most federal employees from certain political and campaign activities. That's still the case, Diversity hire said on Tuesday when pressed on the matter. I don't have anything to share or change of my comments that I've made before on this. So I'm sure that she's going to be tight-lipped on this. More stuff coming off of this. From The Blaze, Peter Doocy confronts White House point blank on allegations that Biden lied about involvement in Hunter Biden's business schemes. From Chris Enlow. I don't know what's happening with their headline over here, but Glenn, get it together. Your website's starting to look like crap. I know you just lost all your mug club money, but still. White House Press Secretary Token Diversity hire refused on Tuesday to answer whether President Biden has lied about his involvement, or lack thereof, with the various business operations of his family. Shortly after winning the majority of the House, Republicans promised oversight investigations into Biden and his family. James Comer, who will become the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, said the inquiry will investigate whether Biden was directly involved with Hunter's business deals, and thus whether he is compromised. House Republicans have previously alleged that Biden personally participated in Hunter's business dealings. So let's see if they have us queued up to that right point. They sure do.
With the new Republican majority coming in, the House Oversight Committee is laying out their new investigations, and they claim to have evidence that Joe Biden lied to the American people about his involvement in his family's business schemes. Did he?
So look, I've said this before and I'll say it again. House Republicans promised that fighting inflation during the midterms was going to be their number one priority. That's what they said was important to them, and that's what they said that they wanted to do. But instead, what they're doing is wanting to do an investigation on the president and his family. That is their focus. They don't want to focus on the American people and their family. They want to focus on political division. They want to focus on something that the American people do not want to see, as we saw from the midterm elections. Look, I'm not going to get into the specifics of any of the oversight here. We have a White House counsel that's going to my colleagues who are going to deal with this. So I will point you to them. And again, I'll point you one more thing. I'll point you to tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to see a trip, an event where that's going to be done in a bipartisan way. So there's ways to move forward for the American people, for American families, in a way that works. Go ahead, Judge.
Thank you, Karine.
It's all about getting certain people the power and the money. That's what it really boils down to. All right, let's talk about this FDA one, which, by the way, I'm a little bit curious about that myself because I didn't read this initially. I don't know what's happening with this, but I'm sure I'll have questions. I'm sure they'll be answered or danced around by CNN. FDA to allow pharmacies to dispense abortion pills to patients. From Catherine Dillinger and Evan Perez. The FDA is allowing certain pharmacies to dispense the abortion medication mifepristone to people who have a prescription. I mean, is that not what a pharmacy does? I mean, is that not what a pharmacy's job is? I'm sorry, I thought that's what pharmacies did. Let's keep reading. Mifepristone can be used along with another medication, misoprostol, to end a pregnancy. Previously, these pills could be ordered, prescribed, and dispensed by only a certified healthcare provider. Ah, that's what it is. During the Pinko-Pox pandemic, the FDA allowed the pills to be sent through the mail and said it would no longer enforce a rule requiring people to get the first of the two drugs in person at a clinic or a hospital. As of Tuesday, the in-person requirement has been permanently removed, according to Danco Laboratories, which markets the drug under the name Mifeprex. Pharmacies that became certified to do so can dispense the drugs directly to someone who has a prescription from a certified prescriber. The updated information was posted Tuesday on the FDA's website. A time when people across the country are struggling to obtain abortion care services, this modification is critically important to expanding access to medication abortion services and will provide healthcare providers with an additional method for providing their patients with a safe and effective option for ending early pregnancy, Danco said in a statement. Laws vary by state, but the medication can be taken up to 11 weeks after the first day of the last menstrual period. Telehealth prescriptions are still an option in some states, or a person could travel to a state where abortion is legal to get the pills. Medication abortion is used in more than half of abortions in the U.S., outpacing surgical procedures for the first time in 2020, according to the Guttmacher Institute, a research group that supports abortion rights. Pharmacy chain CVS said in a statement that it's reviewing the updated requirements. We're reviewing the FDA's updated risk evaluation and mitigation strategy, drug safety program certification requirements for mifepristone to determine the requirements to dispense in states that do not restrict the dispensing of medications prescribed for the elective termination of pregnancy. Walgreens has also said it's reviewing the changes. So, I mean, Moloch is pleased, I'm sure. The FDA's move comes just days after a new Justice Department legal opinion declared that federal law allows the U.S. Postal Service to deliver the abortion drugs, a move that Biden admin believes could help protect access to abortion in states that have enacted bans following the Supreme Court decision to overturn Roe. So the federal government is stepping in to sidestep states' rights under the 10th Amendment. This didn't end well the last time we did this. If you remember what the Freed Slave Act was doing. It didn't end well then, and, well, I'm going to can some more stuff. I'm going to go get some more Spam every time I'm at the store, and some more canned goods, and some more canned meat, and some more canned vegetables, because, well, I want to make sure that when it all pops off, I don't have to take a side. Grab one from Fox News. Major New Jersey newspaper calls Second Amendment a curse, claims America has a fetish with gun culture. From Gabriel Hayes. The editorial board of a major New Jersey newspaper recently claimed that the Second Amendment is a curse. The Star-Ledger published an editorial on Tuesday titled "The Second Amendment is a Curse," which railed against the Americans' gun rights, claiming they're making it difficult for state lawmakers to enact a gun safety measure like gun-free zones. The piece argued that while the Supreme Court and pro-Second Amendment lawsuits make it harder for New Jersey to pass gun control, 300 people are shot every 24 hours in the U.S. The editorial began with the board slamming the Supreme Court's 2022 decision to strike down a more than a century-old state law that restricts the right to carry a concealed handgun in public. The board lamented how the court's decision has made it easier for lawsuits to dismantle any attempt by the New Jersey governor to sharply limit where guns can be carried in New Jersey, the board said. Where you have fewer guns and stricter laws, you have fewer gun injuries and deaths, research has shown, yet while most people are solidly on his side, the law may not withstand legal challenges. Well, they always have the option to just not carry in those places. You can always do that. The piece then invited readers to imagine a society where establishing gun control wasn't hard. It provided the example of Canada and its pro-gun control activist leader, Prime Minister Trudeau, as the embodiment of this ideal place. It said, "Now imagine a world where we didn't have to struggle with this. You don't have to look far for inspiration. There it is, just north of our border, where Trudeau is almost reaching the point of banning gun sales in Canada. And yet people are still going to go back out and buy them without the government's knowledge. They have no Second Amendment, no constitutional right to gun ownership. Guns are treated the same way as any other consumer good that the government can regulate. Yes, and Canada can also freeze up your bank account if you don't sing their praises, or bend to every whim that they put out from national politics. You see, what we saw with the trucker protest is a big indicator of why the rest of us want to at least be able to point a gun at somebody. And this is all in a simulation, of course. We don't actually want to do this in real life. But it's somebody coming from the government intent to oppress us. Meanwhile, the board pointed to America as a place where blood is shed daily thanks to its gun rights. Meanwhile, in America, we continue to bleed daily with an average of more than 300 people shot every 24 hours, including 22 children and teens. It then blasted the rationale behind the Second Amendment, stating, "The core rationale is that we need guns for self-defense, but what we have is a public policy in which nearly 49,000 people a year are killed by guns, most of them self-inflicted, by the way, and nearly 400 million firearms flood our streets. More than one for every citizen, which is based." Again, you have the option not to. I don't recommend it, but you have the option. And hell, I'm going to tell you right now, if I find out who you are, because I do carry concealed, and we happen to be walking down the street together at some point, and I see somebody come up to you and put a gun to your head and tell you to empty out everything else, every bit of money that you have on you, all your credit cards, and everything, the shirt off your back. If that guy with a gun tells you to give you everything, I will respect your anti-gun stance, and I will not use my concealed piece to defend you. And then you can tell the robber that he can't do that because guns aren't allowed. I have respect for your anti-gun stance. From the Daily Wire, a little bit of financial news here for you. Remember, the real minimum wage is $0. More fast food chains invest in automation amid labor shortages, minimum wage increases. From Brandon Dre. Major fast food chains like White Castle and Chipotle have started employing restaurant robots as labor shortages continue to impact the industry while the price of food increases in the aftermath of the Pinko pox and crippling inflation. By the way, speaking of White Castle, now that I'm on the border of a completely different state, I need to see if there's anything in southeast Minnesota as far as a White Castle goes. There is only one White Castle in Wisconsin, and it's on Highway 50, crossing with the frontage road to the interstate in a Shell station in Kenosha. It's the only one in the state of Wisconsin. According to a report, automated machines will grill burgers, brew coffee, and welcome customers for a fraction of the cost compared to paying human workers, as governments nationwide imposed a draconian lockdown order forcing restaurants to close down temporarily and, in some cases, permanently. Yeah, the Who Hot in Janesville shut down permanently, and I was depressed because I love Who Hot. And of course, you could go to Madison to Who Hot, but I made a rule not to spend money in Dane County. And apparently there's a Who Hot in Alaska, which is a suburb of La Crosse. So that's probably happening somewhere in the near future for me. The National Restaurant Association said in a report viewed by the Daily Mail that 4 out of 5 operators have been understaffed since the pandemic hit in 2020. White Castle's begun testing at 100 locations a robot named Flippy, a kitchen robot built by a California-based tech company. And oh, by the way, of course it's California that's shutting down the minimum wage labor, isn't it? Called Miso Robotics, the AI-powered machine can cook 300 burgers and deep-fried potatoes for about $3,000 a month. On the other hand, Chipotle hired a one-armed robots to make tortilla chips at 73 sites for the same price. The highest value benefit that we bring to a restaurant is not to reduce their expenses, but to allow them to sell more and generate a profit, Miso CEO Mike Bell told CNBC. Starbucks has spent $18,000 on AI-powered espresso machines in at least 1,200 locations. Yeah, keep fighting for that union, Starbucks. David Hanks, a principal at the restaurant research firm Technomic, told CNBC that automation experimentation will lead the industry somewhere at some point. But we're still a very labor-intensive, labor-driven industry, Hanks said. Jamie Richardson, vice president of White Castle, told the outlet that other changes like Coca-Cola Freestyle machines have had more outsized impact on sales. Sometimes the bigger automation investments we make aren't as earth-shattering, Richardson said. Now, I'm going to say something to this on principle. I am the kind of person who is not going to go to a fully automated kiosk. I might just do it for fun, for once, to say, hey, I think this is cool. I want to say that I did it, but for the most part, I don't use self-checkouts. I don't check myself out. I don't use the kiosks at McDonald's unless it's absolutely packed and I can't get myself up to the line. I will not use the kiosk. I will go up there and order from a person. And if fast food goes this direction, mind you, I should really stop fast food anyway, but I will stop fast food on a dime if it all goes into this direction. And I mean, maybe even more of us should go down to the local diner and get our food from the old waitress who's been there since she got out of high school, who goes back behind the kitchen and smokes a cigarette on her break. We should maybe do some more of that. But on principle, no, I won't use this. Again, maybe once or twice just to come out and say, oh yeah, no, this was cool, this was thrilling. Because I do recognize the importance of labor. And my choices are to utilize labor and allow someone to get the skills, to learn the skills that he will take forward into the future into a new career. Or maybe make a career out of what he's doing. Who knows? But that's just me in principle. I also like the freedom to choose. Like I say, I like the fact that self-checkouts are there, but they still have lanes open in the local grocery store or places like that. Because then we can choose to go and have a person do it and bag our own groceries, or do it ourselves. I do like the fact that there's a choice. But as far as some of these jobs go, do remember again that the minimum wage is $0. That if they can replace you by a machine, you get no wage whatsoever. Some China news here. China vows countermeasures to unacceptable new COVID restrictions on Chinese travelers. I have no author given on this one. The Chinese government has blasted the pinko pox testing requirements imposed on passengers from China and threatened countermeasures against countries involved, which include the US and several European countries. Well, you close your borders to people, so why not? We believe the entry restrictions adopted by some countries targeting China lack scientific basis and some excessive practices that are even more unacceptable, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning said at a daily briefing on Tuesday. We are firmly opposed to attempts to manipulate the pinko measures for political purposes and will take countermeasures based on the principle of reciprocity, she said. Oh no! Capitalists can't go to China and see the crap that they have going on over there. Whatever will we do? The comments were China's sharpest to date on the issue. Australia and Canada this week joined a growing list of countries requiring travelers from China to take a pinko pox test prior to boarding their flights as China battles nationwide outbreak of the coronavirus, abruptly easing restrictions that were in place for much of the pandemic. Other countries, including the US, UK, India, Japan, and several European nations, have announced tougher pinko pox measures on travelers from China amid concerns over a lack of data on infections in China and fears of the possibility that new variants may emerge. Well, China, I just want to remind you of one thing. You do very much depend on the rest of the world to come and buy your cheap crap. So take the measures that you want. There's a growing demand to have more stuff made in this country. And by the way, as much as you hate Taiwan, there is some growing demand to go get stuff out of Taiwan to try to stick it back to you guys. So I don't see this ending well, but, again, we'll get some popcorn and we'll see what happens with that. From the New York Post. Alleged Islamic extremist in machete attack on NYPD cops asked family to repent to Allah in disturbing manifesto. From Joe Marino and Jorge Fitzgibbon. By the way, this is going to be listed as a right-wing terrorist attack because it's religiously motivated, just so you know. The 19-year-old alleged Islamic extremist suspected of attacking NYPD cops with a machete on New Year's Eve penned a disturbing manifesto that urged his family to please repent to Allah and accept Islam. Police sources told the Post. Trevor Bickford, a Maine resident who arrived in the Big Apple just days before the attack, carried a handwritten note in his backpack, along with a collection of religious material and $200 after booking a room at a hotel in the Bowery in Manhattan, sources said. To my family, specifically mother, I'm sorry for not having been a good enough son, the note read, according to the police source. I fear greatly that you will not repent to Allah, it says, and therefore I hold in my heart that a piece of you believes so, that you may be taken out of the hellfire. To my brother Travis, of course I've known, who I have felt is closest to my faith. It is you, he allegedly wrote. Of anyone I ever wanted to accept Islam with me, it's you. Please repent to Allah and accept Islam. I fear for you. Addressing his older brother, who sources say is in the Marines, the suspect allegedly wrote, to Devon, there was a time when we were close, but that time has passed. You have joined the ranks of my enemy, and for that I can give you no kind words. Return to Allah. Bickford of Wells, Maine, is believed to have found religion in recent years following the death of his father, Tom, from an overdose in 2018 at the age of 41. The teen's father played a very active role in the lives of his three sons and could often be found coaching them at football and wrestling, the Portland Press-Herald reported. Sources said Bickford became radicalized as recently as a month ago. Bickford's radical shift put him on the FBI radar. Whoa. Are you saying it's another person who was on the FBI's radar that just mysteriously went nuts? Oh man, how often does that happen? Before he hopped on an Amtrak train and traveled to New York, arriving on December 29th, according to sources. Around 2200 hours on Saturday, he allegedly attacked cops working the Times Square detail, including a rookie on his first assignment, police said. The young cop, who was still assigned to the police academy, suffered a gash to his head, and Staten Island officer suffered a blunt force trauma to the head. Both were taken to Bellevue with non-life-threatening injuries. Bickford was shot in the shoulder and wounded during the attack. Police said he remained hospitalized Sunday and has not yet been charged. Well, I always wonder what causes some breaks like this, but apparently he broke. From the Daily Wire, we got just a few more left, and then we will do what I am thankful for and head out of here for the day. From the Daily Wire, government must raise 40% or cut spending 30% to achieve fiscal balance, according to a study. Guess what's not going to happen of the two of those? Guess what is going to happen? From Ben Ziesloft. The federal government's budget is in such disarray that balancing the books would require a 30% spending cut or a 40% increase in taxes, a recent study found. The budget deficit, which reflects the difference between federal revenues and expenditures in a year, approached $1.4 trillion in 2022, according to data from the Office of Management and Budget. The national debt is currently nearing $31.5 trillion, even as maintenance costs soar due to higher interest rate environment. An analysis from economists at the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School found that American fiscal policy is in permanent imbalance as current debt plus projected future spending outstrips future tax revenue, demanding a substantial decrease in expenditures or a substantial rise in revenues. Haven't I been saying this since like 2014? This is the reason I cut up my first stimulus check before the government insisted that I needed to take it anyway. This is the reason that I cut up that check and sent a letter back to the IRS with it. This right here, what you're seeing right here, is that reason. Right there. Just like all individuals and businesses, the federal government is subject to a budget constraint and must fund all expenditures, current and future, from its tax and non-tax receipts over time, the analysis said. By construction, the fiscal imbalance must be zero for a fiscal policy to be sustainable without future changes. Yeah, we're long past that at this point. The economists forecasted that the fiscal imbalance would equal 7% of the present value of all future gross domestic product over the next 75 years. Restoring order to the federal budget would require across-the-board cuts to programs such as Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, across-the-board increases to payroll taxes, individual taxes, and business taxes, or some combination of tax hikes and spending cuts. Yeah, guess which one of those is not going to happen? The future measures of federal indebtedness were made using the generally accepted accounting principle established by the Financial Accounting Standards Board, under which companies must report the present value of shortfalls in their long-term obligations. Combining current debts with the present value of projected future shortfalls over the next 75 years implies $93.8 trillion of fiscal imbalance. Republican and Democratic administrations have overseen surges in the national debt over the past several decades. Although Barack Obama maintained budget deficits as large as $1.4 trillion during his first term, Trump ran a deficit nearing $1 trillion in 2019, the year before the deficit more than tripled to $3.1 trillion as a result of stimulus spending. Packages greenlit by Biden will contribute more than $4.8 trillion in new deficit spending between 2021 and 2031, according to an analysis from the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. While removing the effect of the American Rescue Plan, a stimulus package approved soon after Biden's inauguration implies a $2.5 trillion of new deficits. So, according to this, just the stimulus alone was worth $2.3 trillion in deficit. And we wonder why the Federal Reserve is trying to kick you out of the market. I don't know what's happening here, by the way. I'm curious about this. The Daily Wire asks what's happening. And I don't know that I've seen a lot of this video, but Libertarian Mama says they're creepy and they're kooky, mysterious and spooky. Let's watch.
Congratulations, Senator. Congratulations. And then the whole family? Or are we going to do the three of us? Okay. There we go. Okay.
And again. And 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
Hi, family. Do you remember we talked on a FaceTime? You remember that? Good. Hi. Congratulations. Right in front of me. Gracie's so funny. Congratulations. There we go.
All right, guys. So just look this way for me.
Why'd you cover him?
All right. Right here.
Dude, Lurch has no idea what's going on. Look at him.
And just have your hands down on your sides, nice and relaxed. Yeah. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. And 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
Congratulations, everyone. Nice to see you. Good to see you. Take care. Okay.
Yeah, Lurch has absolutely no idea what's going on there. Let's grab one from the Blaze. Mating with shorter people is a step towards a greener planet since smaller individuals are inherent conservationists. New York Times op-ed claims. From Candace Hathaway. A New York Times guest opinion column published on Sunday claimed that mating with shorter people is a step towards a greener planet since smaller individuals are inherent conservationists. The essay writer, Mara Altman, titled "There's Never Been a Better Time to Be Short," argued that people of shorter stature live longer and are better for the planet because they use fewer resources. Are you serious? The short are also inherent conservationists, which is more crucial than ever in this world of 8 billion, the article stated. Altman's essay referred to a study by Thomas Samaras, the godfather of a shrink think, which found that Americans were 10% shorter, it would save 87 million tons of food per year, not to mention trillions of gallons of water, quadrillions of British thermal units of energy, and millions of tons of trash. Short people don't just save resources, but resources become scarcer because there's growing population and global warming. They may also be the best suited for long-term survival, not just because more of us will be able to jam into spaceships when we're forced off this planet. We wrecked. The essay continued. Oh my god. According to the piece, single people should prioritize finding shorter partners. When you mate with shorter people, you're potentially saving the planet by shrinking the needs of subsequent generations. Lowering the height minimum for prospective partners on your dating profile is a step towards a greener planet, the article claimed. The article referenced a lecturer and artist, Arne Hendricks, who uses performance in exhibitions to encourage people to embrace fewer inches. According to Altman's piece, Hendricks does not allow his children to consume dairy and limits sugar to keep them from getting tall. What? What? The future I envision is different. I want my children's children to know the value of short. I want them to call themselves short drinks of water with legs for minutes. While one yells, "I'm the shortest," I hope the other one will bend his knee to gain an advantage, shouting, "No, I'm the shortest," the article concluded. Twitter users relentlessly mocked the article for attributing height to climate change. As well they should have. Well then. With that stupidity, we've got some good news. Some based news. Coming to us from Vice, by the way, which is something that we don't read from on this channel. Like, ever. And I'm sure that Vice is going to have a very, very different opinion of this than I do. From Vice's motherboard, Tech by Vice. You now need a government ID to access Pornhub in Louisiana. Based. From Samantha Cole. Where's my cursor? There it is. A new law makes porn sites liable for content deemed harmful to minors if it doesn't install age verification technology for anyone accessing them in Louisiana, and it's already affecting how people in the state access Pornhub. The law, which was signed by Louisiana's Democratic Governor John Bel Edwards in June, became effective on January 1st. The law passes Act 440 states. Any commercial entity that knowingly and intentionally publishes or distributes material harmful to minors on the internet from a website that contains a substantial portion of such material shall be held liable if the entity fails to perform reasonable age verification methods to verify the age of individuals attempting to access the material. A substantial portion is 33.3% or more material on that site that's harmful to minors. Material that's harmful to minors, according to the Act, is defined as appealing to prurient interests, and that consists of pubic hair, anus, vulva, genitals, or nipple of the female breast, touching, caressing, or fondling of the nipples, breast, buttocks, anuses, or genitals, sexual intercourse, masturbation, sodomy, bestiality, oral copulation, flagellation, excretory functions, exhibitions, or any other sexual act, and lacks serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value for someone under 18 years of age. It also states that any commercial entity in violation will be liable to an individual for damages resulting from a minor's accessing of the material. Motherboard confirmed through VPN that Pornhub is showing people visiting the site from a Louisiana-based IP address a page that requires identity verification before entering. Louisiana law now requires us to put in place a process for verifying the age of users who connect to our site from Louisiana, the page says. So, a few things with this. And this is the page right there. When Motherboard tested the verification, Pornhub directed us to All Pass Trust, a third-party identification verification site, which connects to LA Wallet, a digital driver's license for Louisianans. Pornhub guarantees that Pornhub doesn't connect data during this process. Other major adult sites, including Xvideos and Xhamster, are still accessible from Louisiana as normal. OnlyFans site hangs on the loading page that only displays its logo when accessed from Louisiana IP and eventually times out before loading the site. Pornhub, OnlyFans, Xhamster, and Xvideos did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Now, a few things with this. Number one, I think this is very based. I do wish that we didn't have to get the government involved to do this, but I think this is very based. But Vice shows the weakness in this as well, because there are not a lot of people out there that browse without a VPN. The only reason I don't have one right now is because I spent all my money moving, but I am intending to go back and grab one, or get one started back up as soon as I get myself back up into the green from where I was at. But you can beat this with a VPN very quickly and very easily. Number one, that's the first thing. And our Zoomer brethren, especially the younger ones and those going into Gen Alpha as well, as they start discovering some of the stuff, are going to be out there finding loopholes around this. That's number one. That's part of the problem with this. Number two, this is government involvement, using government identification to go back and get involved in all parts of our lives. Now, do I think it's very based to make it harder for anybody to reach porn? Yes, I do. But the reality is if you are a consenting adult, you have the right to go back. And, I mean, it's a commercial transaction at that point. But the biggest issue that I take with this, of course, is the fact, my views on porn aside, that none of this would be necessary if people were parents, if parents would parent their kids, know what their kids are doing, and have plans in place to stop them. This all could have started at home and ended at home We didn't need to get the government involved, except for the fact that so many parents got out there and failed in their duties as parents. And now we have to get the government involved. And that is the problem. All right, and a little bit of surprise stupidity for the end. From the Blaze. Democrat elected to Congress will be sworn in on a copy of Superman #1, worth about $5.3 million. Somewhere out there, whether it be another country, whether it be aliens watching us from Mars, whether it be our future selves, our society is being laughed at and mocked intensively. From Carlos Garcia, a Democrat who was elected to Congress in 2020 will be sworn in on various documents, including a copy of the first Superman comic book, which is worth about $5.3 million. A journalist spotted the classic comic book among the many religious books and other documents over which members of Congress had chosen to take their oaths. When the journalist inquired about the identity of the member, a congressional aide refused to say. The mystery was solved when Robert Garcia, a Democrat from Long Beach, tweeted that he was the person who would be sworn in on the comic book. Will be proudly sworn into Congress. On the U.S. Constitution, underneath the Constitution, will be 3 items that mean a lot to me personally, Garcia tweeted. A photo of my parents, who I lost to the pinko pox, my citizenship certificate, and an original Superman #1 from the Library of Congress, he added. Garcia has described himself as a comic book nerd. That doesn't mean it's a religious document. Garcia is the first openly gay LGBTQIRAGITOXTMILTEOU sometimes Y immigrant to be voted into Congress. He was formerly the mayor of Long Beach from 2014 until he was elected for the 42nd District of California. Both his parents died from the pinko pox complications in 2020. He and his family members immigrated to the U.S. from Lima, Peru when he was 5 years old. No, the government is his religion. The comic book was first published in 1939 when it was sold for 10 cents a copy. In 2022, a copy of that book sold for $5.3 million, according to the CGC, a grading company for comics. Superman #1 is not, however, the first appearance of the superhero in comics. The distinction belongs to Action Comics 1, which was published in 1938. A copy of that book sold for $3.18 million in 2021. Garcia says he plans to display various comic book images in his congressional office. We are not a serious society anymore, are we? We have stopped being a serious society at this point, haven't we? All right, let's head out of here. Randy Crush Saga coming in at the end again, but I'm still thankful for the fact that he's here. All right, the last thing that we do on Wednesday always is I talk about something that either restores my faith in humanity or something that I am thankful for. And, you know, as things are settling in, things are starting to get to a point where they're sustainable. After probably 2 of the hardest months of my life, we're starting to see things come back around and come back into focus and come back. But I look around and I see, I gotta say, what I'm thankful for, what restores my faith in humanity, is the fact that we can come back out and look into a new year and hope for the best. Now, I don't usually get sappy about a new year because it is just another day, and I mean, technically, our New Year's days are all of our birthdays, but we all do gather in on a new year and think about the fact that we're moving in and changing the Julian calendar for another year. And there are a lot of things to look forward to coming up this year. New Congress, new gridlock, and new stories that are going to be coming out. And we are starting to see growth. I mean, I do look up, I see the numbers, I watch the numbers, and after we moved into the new time slot, I mean, for the first couple days, we got 10, 12 viewers coming in as people were coming in seeing what the new show was like in the new time slot, but it did drop off for a little while, and now it is starting to pick back up again. People are starting to get used to the fact that I am at this time slot now, and I am competing against some very, very big hitters. I mean, Tim Pool is on right now talking to somebody inane and probably less than intelligent on his program at this very moment. But it's starting to come back around, and we're starting to build back the audience that we had, and I'm grateful for that. I think this is going to be good for a lot of us. I think some of us are going to struggle. That's an unfortunate side effect, and that comes from the Federal Reserve doing what it does best, and that is screwing the money supply in this country for one direction or another. But I think I'm going to do well, and I do hope that I can come out and help the rest of us do well as well. Especially being in a completely different part of the state. My cousin texted me today, out of the blue, because he just found out that I moved. And we talked about it a little bit. I'll probably call him a little bit after this. I got to take a shower, though. I am an every other day shower just because, you know, trying to keep the hair from getting completely damaged, and also it does seem to be helping because, I mean, if you detergent your hair every single day, you'll go bald. And I was struggling with that for a little bit here, but it seems to have mitigated once I got out of the hard water. But there have been some setbacks on the move, but I think we're all looking up right now. I think it's all looking good. So we're in the good. I think we got off the downswing. I think after this week, things are going to start looking up. There's some very good things coming up on the horizon as well. So I do hope that you all have a good new year. You have a better 2023 than you had a 2022. And I hope you had a better 2022 than you had a 2021, to be honest. I really do. It'll be rough, but I have faith in the Edheads that they'll make it through. So, with that, we're out of here for the day. Get some outro music up, and let's go. All right, and with that, we're out of here. We didn't have any technical setbacks tonight, and we actually, I don't know where those 100 people came in from over on Twitch. Nobody said a word, but maybe we got botted to death. I don't know. Maybe they tried to come back and overload things, or maybe we did catch a few new users. We'll see. But we're heading out of here for the day. Let me see if we can find somebody to go and raid while I'm doing some outro monologue here. But we'll be back here tomorrow evening for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. We'll be talking about what's happening with the speakership, I'm sure, especially since Beam Me Up Mr. Scott pointed out the fact that they all went home and didn't vote again. So we'll be talking about that. We'll see if we go another day without a speaker. We'll see if Damar Hamlin comes out of the hospital. We'll see what's happening with the government, with the inflation, and with the finance. We'll see what the Dow does, and a host of other things that are bound to come for our nation, because the news is a 24-hour cycle at this point. Come back here and join me. We'll see what happens here tomorrow. Who are we going to raid today? Who are we going to raid? We've got a lot of people on here. Maybe we'll go see the Fallout New Vegas chick that we've been following here for a while. I think that's who we're going to do. Yeah, let's do that. We'll go join Finek here at the end of the show here. So stick around for that if you're into Fallout New Vegas, which I think, given the fact that I'm wearing a Nuka-Cola shirt, I think a lot of you guys are as well, and a lot of you joined me for the Fallout New Vegas playthrough that I did a few years ago, so come back here for that. We'll be back here tomorrow for more news and more headlines. Definitely looking forward to seeing you guys here, and until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.